sure. Yes, it's not now. Hello, hello. How are you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. Hello, Kenny. Hi, Mabula. Hi, Chisam.
Hi, Kelly. Hi.
Hello.
Good,
Hi,
good.
Shizam, can you hear us? Can you speak well? Yes.
Loud and clear.
Eh,
Fantastic. Okay.
it's good to see you. For everyone just joining
Hi.
us, this is What's Your Story Life third edition from Orange Academy. And I'm here jamming with some of the most powerful storytellers that we have out there today from different sectors. We have Chisholm from the youth sector doing amazing work, having to represent the youth voices. We have Mobola, she's a great advocate for funding and for people's story in the corporate world, especially in the government sector. And I'm so excited to have a voice here today. And then we have Unyida Mala. Unyida Mala, oh my God, she is a creative director, and she is just a storytelling in, everything storytelling is just so in there. And so I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, what they're working on, what they are doing right now, and then we're going to get to jam to Eniola Falashe's song. For those of you who saw the music that we started with, that was Eniola Falashe, one of the alumni of Orange Academy, and I just love dancing to that music. What do you think about that song? Before you introduce yourself, just tell me about that jam, and then you go ahead.
I mean, it's the jam. Really, like very groovy. Immediately, you are bobbing your head. You're like, oh, this is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we go around to Oida, and then we go to Chisholm. Mobola.
Oh, me first. Fantastic.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Mobola Akingbala, and I head funding and partnerships at Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. Hope I'm very audible, Claire. Good.
Yes.
Fantastic. So, what do I do every day? Like you said, I tell stories to people, to corporate brands, to global brands, to see what is happening as to how people can become better, how they can join hands with the government to make improved lives of people. That's just what it is. And on the other end, telling the stories of the government to say, we have this ready for you. You can benefit, and this part of what you're perhaps in any way that the government can support you to then increase your wealth, increase your prosperity. Generally, that's it. So every day, my life is about how can we tell the stories to say this is available for you. This is, you don't need to do anything much because you live here. You can benefit from what is around you to then improve your life. So that's what it is in theory, but of course in practical level, I speak to development agencies, corporate people to say this is what we're doing. We need you to give us your 2 naira to let us get this done together and then improve lives if you believe in the mission.
That's excellent. It's good to know that. It's good for once to hear there's a storyteller in government. I mean, a lot of time you look like a place where there's no creativity, a lot of bureaucracy, and
Nice.
people just say, "Oh, you want to work
Right.
in government? No, don't go there." So I'm excited to have someone from
Right.
government join us. Unidamola, let's go to you. What's going on? What are you doing? You're everywhere. I see you in New York. I see you in Lagos.
Hello, Kenny. Hello, everyone. I mean, it's such a pleasure to be here. My name is Oindamala Fakile, and I'll introduce myself, by first speaking to the fact that yes, people call me many things, right? They call me writer. To some people, I'm an executive creative director. They call me creative leader, communication strategist. But the title I really like is storytelling aficionado, right? And not because it sounds very fancy, right? But because it explains me very well. I'm someone who's genuinely fascinated about the power of stories and how it shapes identities, how it moves culture, how it just really builds brands, right, and connects to art. So, um, my storytelling job is not a title, is not a campaign. It's more about curiosity for me, right? I've always been a child who would always ask why, right? And I get paid now asking the whys, right? And also looking for how to just connect. So it's more than just communicating for me, it's connecting. So what brands ask me to do and what I'm all about and what keeps me up at night, which I enjoy by the way, because that's when the juices start to really flow, right? It's just really finding that magic in a world that is full of noise, right? So that's going down. I'm so delighted to be here today.
That's excellent. That's great. Thanks for joining us. I hope I can pronounce that aficionado. It sounds like Italian word, but congratulations. Good to see you. Thanks, Sunita. Chisholm, let's go to you. Youth advisory expert. I mean, that's such a huge title for someone telling story. What does that mean? Do you want to tell us what you do and how storytelling is important in that space?
Sure. Thank you so much, Kenny. And it's really an honor to sit here and jam with these powerhouses that you have paired me with. So, what do I do? At my core, I am a storyteller, right? And just a little back story. I've kept a journal since I was 10 years old. So I'm genuinely passionate about narrating everything, right? So what do I do right now? I'm a youth advisory advocate, youth advisory expert, however you want to put it. Whenever you hear something like interventions, whenever you hear something like non-profits, what comes to your mind is, oh, the participants or the beneficiaries are mostly young people. Like if you look at most initiatives these days, you see age bracket 18 to 35, right? And then what I really do is to make sure that these interventions, number one, they are youth centered, they are youth centric. It means that whenever initiatives are being designed or communicated to young people, I make sure that it gets to those young people in the places that we are and in the language that we are going to understand it, basically. And something else, finally, I would say about being a youth advisory expert is I make sure that storytelling is done with young people, not at young people, if you know what I mean. Over to you, Kenny.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. I just want to start us by talking about the word storytelling. Every time I bring guests together, I always go back to the basic. There was a time many years ago, not too long ago, storytelling was not something people put on their resume. It was too vague. You don't just say you're a storyteller. Now you go to LinkedIn and you see everybody storyteller, storyteller, storyteller. In your mind, what happened? Why? Is there something that is really, can you prove it? I mean, they say, what do you do? What does your mother do? Your mother is a storyteller. Does that sound right? So you all are the experts here. How do you tell people that you're a storyteller? Who is a storyteller? Really, really? I don't get it. I know I use it, but sometimes I feel it's cheesy, right? Like storyteller. Is that NTA Channel 5
Okay.
storyteller? I don't know. Who is a storyteller? Yeah, anybody can go. This is a jam, so go ahead and jam with us. Uyinda, you're muted.
Okay. If I can start first. So I'll go back to Kenny's class. I'm talking 2010.
Am I that
And the
old?
storytelling class, Kenny came to class, lights were turned out, and I had it was this ginormous jack-o'-lanterns in the class. And it was, what he said was, once you come into this place, suspend everything you think is possible. Like in this moment, anything is possible. And that I took with me very seriously because I work in a space where people like to believe that one, there's a lot of distrust working with the government, and so and then the people that you're working for believe that there's some level of mismanagement. It's a constant way. So storytelling is about saying, for me or how I work is to say that how do I interpret what I intend to say in the kind using the elements of what you believe in to communicate to you. So very simple. So like we say, the government says that their mission is to democratize wealth and prosperity. How does, like she's something, how does someone who is 1935 interpret that? What kind of elements that they're familiar with can I use so that when I say it, it connects immediately, they believe in it, and they want to participate in it? That's my so that's a daily for me. And in the same vein, I go to, for example, I'm not calling out Chisholm or no, I'm mentioning Abbott. Typically, we have the standing MasterCard in that they don't work with government. And so it's like, how do I seek out people who MasterCard, for example, wants to work with and say, your story is our story. Let us work together to achieve the same aim. So that's what I do, basically, on both
That's
ends.
that's fascinating. Yeah.
Nice. I think I'll just
Well,
jam
you
in
called me
here,
out.
right? I mean, oh, okay. Well, oh, yeah, she did.
She called me out. Okay,
Right?
okay. Let me lean towards
You want to go first, please?
kindness and respect. Yeah, let me lean towards kindness and respect. And because I would want you to uh, say this properly next time. It is actually called Mastercard Foundation, and we are big on making sure that we are called that way for very serious reasons. But I hear you
Forgive
really
me.
when you say
I thought I said MasterCard Foundation. That's what I said. Oh, forgive me. Let me make a caveat.
it's all
I
right.
talk very fast. So sometimes it
Okay.
may seem like I'm swallowing my words, but I said, I assure you, MasterCard Foundation, that I am very particular about. That's what I said.
Okay.
So
Okay. That's
forgive me if I
great.
Okay.
wasn't clear.
Listen, this is a jam, and so we can jam. Sometimes we can mishear ourselves. It's part of the jamming. So go ahead,
Okay.
Chisholm.
And something else, interestingly, Mubola, some months ago, I was in a co-creation session that was the focus of that co-creation session was to open up cross-border trade for women who are entrepreneurs. And guess who was in the room? A representative from LES, from Lagos State in the Trust Fund. One of your person was in the room. You are right to an
Yes.
extent saying, "Oh, you are aware of that. Thank you for being aware of that."
Oh,
Uh,
no,
we
we currently have
seriously
that that training is going on. We currently have that current. So what we did was we went to court the approved MasterCard Foundation partner, and then we worked with them. So we're currently working on that project right now.
okay. I'm happy that you're aware of this.
Yes.
We seriously collaborate with the government, like very seriously, because at the end of the day, whatever kind of initiative we're trying to put out, policy is very important, and the government is in charge of policy. So, what does storytelling mean to me as a young person, right? Because most of these rooms, like this, for example, the co-creation room, I was a young voice in there, making sure that everything that's being discussed here, from people from the government, people representing the government, people representing financial institutions, when everybody is talking, I'll be like, you guys are saying really amazing things, but for a young person to understand what you are saying and for it to make sense to a young person, let us try to go in this direction, right? That is what I usually do in these rooms. And I'm happy that I'm not really scared to do that. Just shoot up my hand, stand up and say, oh, this is really going great. But for young people to accept what you're saying, let it go this way, right? So what does storytelling mean to me in a professional setting? Not personally, because personally, storytelling to me is journaling, but let's move to professionally. It means that I am trying to communicate a certain kind of narrative. And in Nigeria that we are in currently, there is a certain narrative, there's a certain stereotype, I would say, that young people are being looked. There's a stereotypic lens that young people are being looked at from, which one of the things I try to do is correct it, right? Correct it by saying young people are capable. Like young people are ready to take on position. No matter, allow us to be the ones that are, oh, I can't do this. Anything you think a young person should do, trust me, young people are ready to do it. Another thing is young people, how I view storytelling from what I do professionally, is to really shift narratives, honestly, to shift narrative, even on the side of young people, to show young people that, hey, these things, as Mobola was saying earlier, that you live in this country, these things are available for you. So she's using storytelling to pass that narrative across. Interestingly, there was an event that I was a part of in October where there were financial institutions in the room, policymakers, representatives from the government, and it was almost like a jam, just like this one, but it was more physical. Here's something that happened in the room. The core of that conversation was how to unlock financial access for young women entrepreneurs, right? So any financial institution you can think of was in the room. Central Bank was in the room. Bank of Industry was in the room. Now here's something. Then young people were in the room. Financial institutions were saying, we put out this information and young people are not seeing it. What young people want to do is go on TikTok and play and dance and stuff. They are not looking for information. And I kid you not, a young person in the room, early 20s, put up her hands and said, well, thank you for saying that young people like to hang out on TikTok and Instagram and stuff. Why not bring this information to us? If you want to talk to us, you bring the information to us, right? So those kinds of spaces, you see me there always. And also making sure that young people are confident enough to say the things that matter to them. Tell your story in spaces that the policymakers and people who are going to act are going to hear your story. Put it in their faces. So the way I see storytelling is in two ways. Number one, encouraging young people to put your story in the front of people that will see it and take action. And on the other side of the policymakers or the ecosystem actors, bring the information you think young people need to know about. Bring those kind of narratives to our face. Where do we hang out? Bring those things there. So that is my idea of storytelling, effective storytelling for youth engagement.
That's a masterclass right there. I'm not surprised that we were talking about MasterCard Foundation. So we had a masterclass. So thank you all. I'm going to go to Unida. She has a lot to say, I'm sure. And I can't wait to hear from Unida. Thank you.
I mean, I like the question, Kenny, because I see that there's some things that have now become, say, obtainable in this our time and age that, when you flash back, maybe say to our mother's era or our father's era, you're like, you know what, maybe if my mom was probably born in this era, she would be like maybe a social media influencer or something, right? So I'll use that to sort of give what I feel, should be our posture in terms of, speaking to storytelling, right? I believe that storytelling is in our DNA, even as humans, and dare I say, even as Africans, Nigerians, right? It's in our DNA, it's embedded. It's how we teach morals, right? I mean, a lot of us on the call or on this session, you can remember certain stories that your mother told you because she was telling you do not touch fire, right? And you just would not listen, right? And she would go to maybe room and then devise a story to tell you. It's something that really never happened, right? But by the time she gives birth to it, it becomes a proof point for you to start to understand that look, I dare not touch fire because my mother told me a story about who. We know about the folk tales, we know about all the adages, right? So storytelling is so pregnant, it's such a palpable tool, right? And I believe that look, as at today, it's no longer a nice to have, right? So we would boldly fly our colors of storytellers, right? Because we believe that storytelling, or I believe it's a currency of attention, especially in this very overstimulated world where you find a lot of information. There's a lot of people selling to you. There's a lot of people cold selling, right? And whether it's in brand, whether it's in culture, whether it's in tech, whether it's even in faith, right? Storytelling has shifted from that place where we are just passing a message. We are now sharing an experience. So one of the things that I think we as storytellers are doing differently, we are pushing for more authenticity, right? I think Chisom was speaking to it, right, about how Gen Zs, for example, young people want to be seen, right? They can smell marketing from your breath, right? So they really want to be told stories because they want human rather than corporatees, right? They want human. So we look into more of community-led narrative.
Yeah. Yeah, some of these challenges with technology, Onyedamola is kind of frozen. Um, hopefully, we get her back. I would go back to Mobola if you are there. Mobola, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. I am curious. How do you use storytelling in your industry, in your domain? I know you started that, but I'm really, really, curious because we're talking about bureaucracy. I mean, you started already by talking about trust, that people don't trust government. So this is a global thing, not a Nigerian problem. This is everywhere in the world. How do you use storytelling to address that, or you know, to make that better? What do you do? I really am curious. Sincerely.
Okay. So, first of all, it is our mission to communicate something very clearly, which is
Mm,
that the 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 impact of what we do is outside of politics as it stands. So
mm,
we're here to as an executing arm of the government, not
mm.
as a political tool.
Oh.
So people need to, we try to let them get that clear that this Lagos State is for everyone who lives in Lagos State. If you live in Lagos State, you can benefit. So there are a lot of things that are happening that people believe that they are used as political tools or they are used as, but especially LSTF, we try to make it very clear that we exist to execute what the government is trying to do to make life easier for everyone living in Lagos State. So how do we tell our stories? First is when we have any kind of initiative or any kind of a partnership that we want to work on, we ensure that at the start of it, there is a need of what is the current need in that exists in society. So forget bureaucracy or whatever it is. At the start of it, what is the need we're trying to solve? So, say for example, right now, like Chiso mentioned that there is an increase right now. There's a buzz now. The creative industry, creative sector, the government has caught on that, and they're like, how can we support what is happening? Who can support what is happening? So we go and say, and there is a trend. Research, first of all, there's a trend of an increase in young people, 1835, 18 to 40, that are in the creative sector and they need support. They're things like need for access to financing, access to tools, access to upskilling. And then the government says, okay, we have 2 naira for that. Take that and then go and make that happen. So what we now say is we see that to make this happen, we'll probably need 5 naira. And so the storytelling now comes in to say, what is the goal? The goal is to ensure that everyone who is within this age range sees that this is not a tool to make it vote for us. This is a provision improve your life. Simple.
Mm,
So we then say, for example, like I said for Chisom, we found who is who has the ears of people we want to speak to, who speaks their language,
mm.
who is close to them. And so we did that and found a partner and said, what you're trying to do is what we're trying to do. And so let's come together and tell the story. And so
Okay.
MasterCard and the partner said, let's do this together. So that's what we do.
Right.
So first is we find, after we find what's the common narrative, we
Mm.
find who has the ears of the audience we desire
Okay.
and see how are they saying it. And so when it comes to first funding, when it comes sorry first for benefiting from the initiative of the government, what we do is we find those who are one close to them. So a lot of grassroots engagement is happening. The areas we want to go to. So right now, the what we have right now with Mastercard Foundation and their partner is they want more women to get entrepreneurship training. They want more women with more people living with disabilities, more young women who are in the IDPs, in displaced refugees. How can we support them? And so, with our vision to say, who are those within those areas, grassroots areas, who speak the language, connect with them,
Mm.
and say what is important for you. We get that done.
Right.
Two, on the point of the funding, we use one data. Two is to sell the vision of the outcome. Let me
Okay.
explain that. For example, we have, let me use the example of Mastercard Foundation. We say, Mastercard says, we desire that there's an increase in young women being empowered. We say, in Lagos State, when it comes to the data of where they are, who they are, how old they are, how big is that subset, we have that information. And so let's
Okay.
use what we have to say to achieve your aim of, say, 80%. We know that that number is within these areas. See what we have. And so once they see that there's a point of connect. So using data to say, we know what you're trying to achieve, the outcome you desire, and we see it, and that's what we share as well. So come together with us to let's work together. So on the part of the funding is we immediately sell their desired outcome. Like Kenny would say in his classes, he would say things like sell the sizzle, and so the sizzle is that what do you desire to see? What's the cherished future you want to see? And
Right.
so
Right.
that selling that is what
Yeah.
now opens their wallets to then to sign the checks to us. So
Wow.
it's not in the bureaucracy that people talk about. Is it exists in civil service, but trust me, when it comes to Lagos State and there is a mandate, there is usually it's a time clock. For example, where I work, we have a mission to ensure 100,000 jobs at the end of this year, and so it is an all-out crazy. How do we achieve 100,000 jobs at the end of this year? That can come in form of giving people access to financing, having people upskill, placing them in jobs. So what we have right now is placing people in jobs, getting you access to financing to start your business. So that run goal is the end of this year. Have we done 100,000 people being empowered, being more, and more prosperous in
Right.
living in Lagos State?
Right. No, this is fascinating. I really love that Lagos is really a center of excellence. I don't care what political party you belong to. Those of you watching, I mean, Lagos is a beautiful place. Lagos holds all of us together. Where irrespective of where you come from, this is a place where, like people say, American dream. I think there's what should be called the Lagos dream. People come from everywhere, and then they're able to make it. I really enjoy the way you navigated storytelling in that space. Like, this is what you want to achieve, and this is how you can get there. And by using story to take them there, to show them the sizzle, like you said, that's fascinating. Oyindamola, you were talking, and then we somehow the god of technology came in.
I yes, and I was really, giving it all my heart. I'm so sorry about that. I don't
It's
know what
okay.
happened.
It's
So I
okay.
don't know where I trailed off, but I was really speaking to how, Mobola talked about how, when Kenny way back in. So I have my way back in moment, right, of Kenny's story about the blank white sheet,
Oh my
right,
God.
and how, look, no matter what challenge a brand brings to you. Say, for example, I remember then we were working on Thermocool, and I think I presented like over 100 ideas. I kid, but a lot of ideas, and it just wasn't working. The story just wasn't hitting right, and it was a case of either leave your system and just get out a blank white sheet. The story is in that blank white sheet. And I think that what that did for me was just to really clear my thoughts and also not get, at times we get what I'll call open to certain noises that sort of tailor your stories, right? So you think it's your story, you think it's the story that the brief requires, but what you are regurgitating is the story that is coming to you in droves on social media, right?
Hmm.
So I was also speaking to how look, storytelling today is not a a nice to have, right? I mean, from our A days, our mothers, right? They use stories they
Hmm.
use stories as a tool of correction, as a tool to guide, and they use it as guardrails, right? And
Hmm.
they were very dexterous in the use. They were very, very innovative, right?
Hmm.
So they will tell you about the story of how one woman, one girl, when she touched a boy, she just became pregnant It didn't happen, right? But it sort of instilled some caution in you, as a child to say, oh my gosh. And then by the time you outgrow, the innocence, you sort of know that that wasn't true,
Mm,
right? But then the story has done its job, right? What did they use so brilliantly well?
mm,
They use the currency of attention, right? Which is what we should learn and use today, and which is what we use as storytellers, right?
mm,
It's a very overstimulated world. There's a lot of people pushing information at you left, right, and center, but people pause when they meet a very authentic story, right? So in advertising, for example, whether it's advertising for brand, for faith, for culture, or for tech, or like I mentioned,
mm,
storytelling has shifted from, it needs to shift. If it has not shifted, it definitely needs to shift from being message led to experience led. And I was talking to what Chiso mentioned about how, look, if you're speaking to the young people, you need to make them understand through the stories that you tell that, look, we believe in you, we know you can do, we know you're capable, right? So one of the things that makes us or should make us proud to brandish our role as storytellers is, for example, the fact that, look, we are always driving in for authenticity over polish. It doesn't need to be this glossy story or this glossy thing. It needs
mm,
to be something that dives for humanness, for
mm,
resonance, right? So
mm,
ditch the corporate tone, Like I always tell my writers, I say you need to speak like you have your target audience sitting in the room with you.
mm,
Would you say, oh, this is the best or oh, here for your dreams? No, you wouldn't say that, right? So how would you speak if you had that Gen Z in the room with you? Or maybe you're out, you're hanging out, right? Because these guys can smell marketing from your breath, right?
mm,
I can smell it from just your eyes, right? They can see that you're trying to sell to me, and they know it's just about your pocket when you brandish it like that. So we need
mm,
to first peel as an artful storyteller. It's about peeling off those layers of corporate,
mm,
right? So the brands give us the brief, and then we look and we deep dive for the empathy in it and say, how do we connect with the people that we're
mhm,
trying to speak to?
mhm,
How do we also deep dive into community-led narrative? So
mhm,
it goes beyond just telling stories, right? There's something I
mhm,
like to say. After we've told even the stories, what are the platforms that these stories would birth, right? So
mhm.
we now move into story doing, right? So there's a storytelling part and there's also a story doing where the brand has told you this story, they try to tell it with heart. But
Wait,
what are
wait,
they
don't
doing
don't
about it?
rush, don't rush that.
Yeah,
I'm interested in
yeah.
story doing. That sounds like a great
Mm-hmm.
concept. That it's not enough to tell a story, but it's not to do it. And that kind of resonate with me when you think of what Mobola said before, that the government is not just
Exactly.
interested in just their political agenda, but they want to make sure that they want to ensure that the people actually have access to this funding, to the dream.
Exactly.
So would that
Exactly.
be called story doing, or what is story doing in this space? Well, how would you define that? That sounds
So
fascinating to me.
I'll say storytelling brought to experience, right? Because
Mm,
say for example, you tell stories it's on a device. You're
mm,
telling the story via a device. Story doing is making meaning out of the stories that you've told, right? In a way that is impactful, in a way that it builds bridges, right? So you've shown me as Mastercard Foundation that, look, this is accessible to me. So what are the platforms? What are the avenues at which this does not become a cumbersome experience for me to access, right?
mm,
So, for example, it needs to be that when people then encounter your brand or experience your brand, there's no dissonance between what you have told them, and then what they are experiencing,
okay.
right? And that means, say, for example, you tell a story about how, oh, you show a guy who's using your fast network, and then he's able to pitch and win maybe a tech competition,
Oh, you
right?
go there.
So,
Okay.
they, yeah, they've seen that on TV, right? Then you can now, as an offshoot of that storytelling,
Yeah.
come up with story doing platforms where you probably set up a hackathon, right? That is
Mm,
still selling the whole thing in that story you told. So you set up a hackathon, you open it up to people that look like the guy you showed in your story,
mm,
right? So the storyteller's job is really not done until it really gets into the space of experience for the people you
mm,
have told the story. Yeah.
mm. This is where we need to bring this is where we need to bring a Chisholm in because you said that people can smell that you are marketing to them from afar. They can tell that you're marketing to them. How do you? Okay. Now let me break this down a little bit. Yesterday, I was reading an article from Washington Post. Fascinating stuff. They're talking about how all of us are addicted to our devices, and a group of psychologists are really talking about, especially the young generation, how it is becoming a real addiction. That people are on their phone, they sleep with their phone, they wake up with their phone. I mean, I go to the airport sometimes, I see young children, I see children with iPads, and this makes me crazy. I'm like, children with iPad, do people still read book? Do people still make connections and all of that? So my question to you, Chisholm, because we're talking about young, um, do you think young people, what does it look like in your world? Because you're an expert in that space. I know you don't speak for all of them because there's no such monolithic young person. But generally, do you think we need to do more social media, digital media, or do you think we need to meet them where they are more physically? What's going on in that space? We all are confused. Most marketing, listen, we're all really trying to grab the straw. How do we talk to these people? Because people say use TikTok. Some young people say they don't want TikTok. People say go on YouTube. Some young people said it's boring. People say Instagram. Instagram now we see grandmothers in Instagram, and young people say they don't want to go there. So tell me, what do we need to do? I am confused.
When you were speaking, Kenny, you forgot to mention one. That's Facebook. I'm not sure there's any young person on Facebook right now. They've all left, right?
Oh,
But
wait. Say that again. Let me put you. Let me maximize your video.
when you were mentioning all the social media platforms, you mentioned
Right.
Instagram, you mentioned Twitter, you did not mention Facebook, and rightly so because so many young people have jumped off that ship. They are
Why?
using other platforms. Why? Thank you for saying earlier that I cannot speak for every young person. But in my circle, why most of us left Facebook was that our fathers were coming there, they were liking your post, commenting on your post. We ran away. We just, please. This is not why I'm here. But, so back to your actual question, when you said what should we do more of, right? Let me circle back a bit to what Ola said when she was speaking about their process at the LSETF. So she mentioned something. She said before they go out and start doing storytelling, she said they will try to find out what is the current need right now. What I would say is, in that phase, when that question is being asked, in the room where that question is being asked, that question is supposed to be asked to a young person. Hey, we are trying to design something for you guys. What is the current need in your space? Gather, I don't know how many you want to gather, but from different geopolitical zones, from different realities of life, and say, what is a young person that will tell you what other young people need, right? Just to even move away from that. Thank you, Olinda, for saying that ditch the corporate tone. Young people are not interested in hearing how you want to sell to them. Interestingly, even if the initiative you are designing is very useful, is very helpful, in your own view, you are the one that know that this initiative is very helpful. You have to come up with ways to show young people that this thing is helpful for you. And guess what? Young people, the only other people we don't trust the system, right? We trust each other. A young person will believe me telling them that come and try this out, and they will believe in Mobola saying come and try this out. So now there are different types of young people again. So let me speak to inclusion in communication, right? This is broad, but I'll try to narrow it down. Inclusion in communication goes in different ways. But I'll touch on number one, inclusion in language. I speak English, I understand English, but an Aisha in Damaturu does not. What if she doesn't understand all this English that we are talking about? Or an Usman in Kaduna? All this English I'm speaking is for us here. You will need to incorporate inclusive storytelling so that Aisha can understand it in her own context, so that Usman can understand it in his own context. That's one. Another thing in storytelling, inclusion in storytelling is for young people, right? For everybody, but I'm speaking for young people, is let us consider persons with disability. All this English I'm speaking now, a person with hearing impairment cannot hear anything I'm saying. So can that person actually follow through the storytelling? They will just look at the video and keep looking at it. So we're going to have to incorporate captions. If you're ever going to do storytelling in your videos, incorporate captions. If you're ever going to make sure that it's inclusive, make sure there's sign language, right? Make sure there's sign language so that people with hearing impairments can hear you and make it look in such a way that you are including everybody, right? Something else to consider when you are talking to young people is let the storytelling be respectful. Earlier, I said that, okay, let me say it this way, let the storytelling be respectful. It is not really ideal, if I would say so, to tell stories at young people. It's better to tell it with them. And as I'm speaking now, I am remembering this class I had with you, Kenny, when you were telling us about the hero's journey. Here's something. If you are going to do storytelling for young people, let's say there's an initiative or an intervention that is coming to town, and you're trying to tell that story to young people, that initiative cannot be the hero in the story. It's not going to work. The young person has to be the hero in the story. And you will take them through that hero's journey. Okay, this is where you are right now. This initiative, you engage with this initiative, and then at the end of the journey, this is where you're going to get to. You see this hero's journey story, you have to have incorporated the inclusion I talked about earlier, so that somebody who speaks only Igbo or only Hausa can understand what you are saying. You mentioned earlier, I'll wrap up with this point. You mentioned earlier that should we do more of social media? Guess what? There are certain young people that the only kind of phones they have do not connect to the internet. So what do you do in that kind of situation? How do you include those kind of people? So now we are going to do so that we are going to now say, okay, these young people in this area, how do they get information? Guess what? Sometimes it is just through their community gatherings. So you have to be prepared to do the legwork, to go into this community and tell the stories. And if it's a young person you are telling the story to, it has to be another. You cannot come to and be very mindful of cultural context. As if you want to tell stories to women in northern Nigeria, and you are sending a man to tell that story, I'm not sure you want them to listen to you. You have to send a woman who is dressed like them, who looks like them, that can understand, okay, this is what we are expecting of you. This is what it is, honestly speaking. And you can also incorporate radio. I used to work in radio, shameless plug. So you can also incorporate some people who are in the core north, who are in the core east, all they have is that their radio, that palito radio, they just have it on their shoulder, and that's it. They don't care about your YouTube, they don't care about your Instagram. So if you're going to do inclusive communication, there are so many things to consider. So at this point, I will drop the mic and pass back to you, Kenny.
No, don't pass it back to me. Anybody else can pick it up from there. This is a jam. I hate that I'm the one asking question, and I hate that everybody is mentioning my class as if I'm this old school that young people don't want to listen to. But I get it. But no, it's okay. I'm joking. No, this has been really eye-opening because the question is always, how are we going to tell this story? How are we going to meet people where they are? Everybody say, do this. By the time we are doing that, it's out of trend. In another 2 months, nobody is doing that anymore. Then you start saying caption. Then algorithms say, no, if you caption your video, people don't like it. It looks like marketing. And then you say, okay, don't caption. Somebody said, oh, because we don't understand what you're saying. Then you say, okay, hard language. Somebody said, you didn't include my own language. Why did you put that other language? So we're in this, conundrum. Like, how do we navigate all of this complex? This is where I really need the expertise of Oida. You are the storytelling woman, I don't know how to describe you. And all of you are storytellers, here. Anybody can start. Actually, I take that back. Anybody can jump in. How do we navigate this complex ecosystem where today's data says, don't go to Facebook? Then in another 2 days, we understand that everybody's on Facebook. What do we need to do? When we said, okay, people don't have phone in the northern Nigeria, and then we get another data that say people actually are on TikTok in northern Nigeria. People actually are on WhatsApp talking to themselves. I'm saying this because I work on COVID-19, and I tell you, I suffered because we were trying so hard to get people, using different methods, different ways, channels. And the more we get closer, somebody will tell us, no, that's not right. You should do this. So we were just dancing on the street and making sure that people get the message. So you are the experts. How do you meet people where they are?
Yeah.
Should
Yeah.
you open up yourself to more data, or I don't know? There must be an answer somewhere. You tell me.
I mean, it's such a beautiful question you've asked, Kenny. It's like a never-ending loop. We just are going in, and before you catch your breath, there's something new. Have you heard of this? Have you heard of that? So I think first we have to understand that platforms would always evolve, right? It happened in the 80s where it was just oral, right? I remember when years back, I used to hear in advertising that to even just do a mood board, right? You have to sketch it out and you have plenty sheets. Remember now? I know Kenny, right? You are timeless, Kenny, though. You are timeless. So
Yes, so
from
sweet.
oral tradition to print, from radio to television, from blogs to TikTok, now we have AI, and even that is insane, right? There's VR, and then there's also community-driven ecosystems, right? So I think the real question isn't how do we chase every platform, right? I think the real question is how do we remain consistent in who we are as a
I
brand, right?
see. I see. I like
While
that.
we are flexible in how we show up,
I
right?
like that.
Because platforms are like stages, right? So let's just imagine that a platform is a stage. Your story just needs to be constant, right? And or
Mm,
what I'll call shape shift depending on the stage that you're going on. So a
mm,
few principles that I use, right, and I always advise my team to use it to anchor in timeless truth. You need to
mm,
anchor in timeless truth. What's the timeless truth you can anchor in? And then you can now adapt your expression. So
mm,
human needs, whether we like it or not, has not really changed. The need of belonging, the need
mm,
for identity, the need for meaning, the need for emotion,
mm,
right?
mm,
Only the medium has changed. Only the medium has evolved, right? The
mm,
platform may shrink the format, right?
mm,
But it will never shrink the human heart. And that's
mm,
what we need to always hold on to and bring forth, right? Number
mm,
two is to make sure that we are students enough to explore. And wise enough not to panic. Right? I tell people that look, I am very nimble, and it's a posture that I want to say now openly is the secret to whatever creativity I have. It's just the fact that I am a forever student. I'm a forever student. May I not, I say it as a prayer and also as, telling myself, may I not get to the level where I feel, oh, I'm here and I know it all, I've arrived, everybody worship at my feet. No,
I share. I
right?
share.
Because I share, right?
Yes.
every every new platform brings a learning curve, right?
Right.
And
Right.
instead of reacting as creatives or as storytellers, right, with the fear of this urgency, we should approach it with curiosity. How do people behave
Curiosity.
here should be one of our
Mm,
questions. For example, what feels native on this platform that I'm on, right? That should be a question we should ask. What tone of voice works here? That should be a question we should ask, right? Another thing that we're not really very used to doing, say in these clients, right, which working on global offices and on global teams have been exposed to, is just we really do not have mediums where we A and B and test our work, right? We don't. We
mm,
need to be open to testing, so we
mm,
test often, we test often, we test often, right? Because
mm,
that is how we earn the attention,
mm,
by respecting the language of the platform. We should
mhm,
not believe that, oh, what worked in Makoko cannot
mm,
work in Lekki Phase 1, right? And this is
Mm,
also just bringing what worked in the streets of Lagos will not work in the streets of New York. No matter how people tell you, oh, it's just giving me Lagos energy, it's not
mm,
going to
mm,
work, right?
mm,
And then number three, right, is to build our stories in layers and not single posts. Most times, today's platforms, we realize that, look, a lot of people just they build single posts and then they just, oh, I'm done. No, what are the layers? So today's platform rewards stories that unfold, right?
mm,
Stories that they feel that, oh, you know what? I'm in on how this thing is going. It's
mm,
episodic, it's participatory, it is
mm,
co-created,
mm,
right? So a story is no longer delivered to an audience, it is
mm,
built with them. If you
mm,
don't build with them, then you lose them. In fact,
mm.
when you build with them, you already have what I'll call your portfolio of stories. You just go there, you're picking from the 40,
Right.
right? And then just to round up, right? Another thing is to understand that, look, excellence travels. Format just determines the speed. So, say for example, it's a
Mm,
2 second hook, right, or a 3 minute documentary. Once there's clarity, creativity, and emotional truth in it, a good story, it will find its home. It will find its home, right?
mm.
And we just need to always, like I sign off now, technology is just an amplifier for us. It shouldn't replace the story. AI, algorithms, tools, they are all accelerators, but not the origin. So we need to make sure that we do not lose the soul of our narrative, our origin story, every time we are telling the story. Yeah.
Ah, God bless you. That's so powerful. So powerful. I saw you shaking your head, Mobala. You were agreeing to most of these things. You are the government, voice in this space. And how do we bring all of this into a government sector? We have very few minutes to finish. I just want us to touch on creativity in a space where creativity is not usually, talked about. How do you bring all of this, all these
So,
lessons? Yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
My screen is frozen.
Well,
Okay.
you're not frozen, actually.
I didn't catch the last thing you said, but I think I get a general idea.
Yeah.
So the government is basically about saying, the story is who is doing what we like. One, who's doing it well. What's how can we support, or how can we make them see the shared vision. That's the government's mission mostly. So it's about, like we said, they call it PPP, so public-private partnerships. So it's a constant. Who is doing it well? How can we tell them that what you're doing is what we're also, like to do or intend to do?
Mm,
Say for example, if for someone like Onyina, where they are the ones who do storytelling, in the wonder kind of way of suspending logic or reality, just going on a journey. So the the government likes to say things like so who is I'll give a scenario now. We have Many people don't know that there are what they call job hubs around in Lagos State, where if I have say I'm a fashion designer, I can't afford the rent of the shop. I can't afford equipment. Many people don't know that you can actually walk into a place and get what they call workspace. But think typical workspace, a hot desk, but for SMEs or for small businesses. You can walk into any place and say, "This job hub, I would like to get a space, get a work voucher," and between 10 a.m. and say 2 p.m., that space belongs to you. The government now says, so what we did was we found who can tell that story in a way where it seems like, believe me, but believe us, this is not about a political gimmick. This is us saying we believe you need this. And so we partner with it wasn't an agency, but storytellers who it was we used radio to say,
mm,
what's a fun way to say you don't need you don't need money for rent, or you don't need money for the machine. There is a space where you can go to, and you can, for that small fee, own that space where it's fully set up by the government. Everything you
mm,
need there to work is there. So finding was a simple chant, yeah,
mm,
to say who can help us to codify this
mm,
into what works. So
mm,
for us, that constant PPP,
mm,
public-private partnership, say who is doing what we like, or who is saying it the way we like. where we can remove that partisanness to say this is just a solution, this is amenity, this is support for you. In the
Correct.
same way, we go to others who are development agencies, others who are corporate organizations like Mastercard to say, what you're doing, we are also doing on a different scale. Can we collaborate together to then do it? So is finding who is selling their own story. How does our story look like the story? And now lay the cards out together. So I have another partner that we're working with right now where they're going into the small pockets to say there's a trend that people are no longer using smartphones to take photos anymore. People want to go back to analog. They want to use cameras. They want to use they want to use the instant photos. They want to use and they came and said, how can the government help us to get into those spaces? You see that? So that's like saying someone like Onyi saying, we have this campaign, we have this brand, and they're saying we want to go into the and you have the data. How can we work together to make them see that you can start a business as a photography person and earn money, improve your life, earn income? You get? So that partner said, so they got their agency from Austria, and they came to Nigeria, had their partner, and said, LSTF, please come board with us. And we want to get into Ikorodu. We want to get to Badagry. We want that guy to think his photography business can thrive if he gets this product from us to then improve it.
Correct.
Do you get? So it's a thing of where can we take our PPP to?
PPP.
Yeah. Is it yes, public-private partnerships.
Correct.
Is there a brand saying more than just customer acquisition? This is a solution that can improve lives.
Got it.
Let's
Got
come
it.
together. Is
Got
there a corporate brand saying, how can we support what is happening? Let's work together. So that for us is the constant. What is the working I won't say channel, or what's the working I'm looking for the right word now. What's the working, maybe loosely speaking, what's working language? What's the working codification of the message?
Correct. Right. Got it.
Use that.
Okay.
Yes.
This has been eye-opening for me. So much talk about the PPP. This should be a masterclass, ladies. This should be. Oyinda was really on about making sure that your story is consistent. It's not just about the medium. It's about you having a story that creates experience. And Chisholm taught me so much today about how you need to be authentic and how you need to meet people where they are and who is the hero of your story. Not just your intervention, not just your new idea. She is just brilliant. This. Okay, before we leave this place, some people are watching and say these are Orange minds. And just by the way, Orange is looking for a chief imagination officer. In case anybody knows any alumni who is interested to run Orange Academy as a part-time. It's just 2 days a week, Saturday and Sunday. Whatever you do, just come and see the park, just know what's going on and be the chief, and we give you something, to go home with. But the whole idea is that we need a visionary. We need somebody who can run the place on weekends, who actually can speak to young people, just like Chisholm was talking about, not just young people, but everybody. So before we leave, just tell me what got you here, and if somebody is watching and if the person wants to be a storyteller, what do they need to do? What's the secret? You all are looking good. You are confident. There's something about your faces. I'm looking at you all. I'm like, what did they, Jet? What did they chop? Is there something? Is there a secret? Just give us, in 1 minute each. I know we're already over time. Yeah. Quickly.
Okay, I don't know what's Orange Chisholm Oyin is, but I would say that as maybe as an Orange mind is that one thing that we got was that is that you have it in you, and so first you need to believe that you have a story to tell. Yeah. And it's not about saying storytelling in a fanciful. You have a story to tell and have confidence in that. Uh Kenny would say it, Franklin would say it, that the arrogance of an orange mind is that you know that your story is good. You know, Franklin would say, I need you to whip up envy in the minds of people around you. You don't need to be 100% confident. I need you to look like you have it, you know.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
believing in the power of your story, which is that
Right.
I know it sounds very, big there, but you
Yeah.
have a story to tell. One,
Yeah.
two,
Yeah.
your story is able to cause change. Now, change is not always dramatic. Your story is able to cause change in someone's mind, shift the perspective, have more insight, have more perspective. That
Right.
in itself is change. Your
I
story
love
has
it.
the power to do that. So if you were thinking that way, one person, I'm here for maybe one person, two minds, five minds, and my story, they see themselves in my story, and that's able to cause them
Love
to,
it. Love it.
shift for the better.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Who's going next?
I got, oh, okay.
Go
But
ahead.
let me do this. Let me do this. So I am also an orange man,
Oh
newsflash.
yeah.
But what I would say is, how did I get here? What I would say is, people brought this out of me, right? I
Mm.
have, I usually say that I have village members. It takes a village. I have elders in my village. I have my peers in my village who are my council members. They are my village members too. People called this out of me, right? I remember having a conversation with my mentor last week, and she was telling me just exactly what Mobola was saying, that you're not for everybody, right? What I would say to my fellow young people listening, how did I get here? What happened? First of all, people called this out of me. It was
Mm.
inside me, and they saw it and they called it out. And guess what? I believe them, right?
Mm.
When people start to call this out of you, please don't shy away from it. Believe
Mm.
them, right?
Mm.
Believe that you have something to give.
Amen.
And I
Mm.
keep saying people call this out of me. I went to meet some of these people. I saw people that looked like where I was going. And I went to meet them and I said, I like what you are on about. And I would really, you might not even come formally and say it. Sometimes you just introduce yourself, make an acquaintance, share some of your work with them. Let them look at what you are doing and say, point you in certain directions. Hey, mentorship will save you 10 years. Mentorship can compress 10 years and give it to you in 3 months.
Mm.
So seek out mentorships from people who look like where you are going.
That's
When
right.
people look at you and try to call things out of you, please believe them. Don't
Mm.
shy away from your potential. And
Don't
finally,
be
I'll
too
say,
humble.
thank you very much. And finally, I will say, intentionally find yourself in spaces that will grow you. All of us here
Mm.
went to Orange. We went there. They didn't force us there. We went there because we were looking for something, right? So stay curious, embrace
Amen.
mentorship. And when
Amen.
people call things out of you, believe them. Yeah, so I'll pass to Oyinda at this point.
Thanks, Chisom. You took us to church for a minute there. I mean, and to your question, Mubola, I'm a 2012 IBX7 Orange Mine. And in fact, I like to brag, to the students I tutor in design thinking that look, you guys, I know you are experiencing Kenya. I'm sorry, Kenny, I cannot not talk about you. I'm so sorry. I say I know you're experiencing Kenny virtually, but see, you don't want to know what it means to have that man in 3D, right? All up in your space, right? And I think that one thing that led me here or has brought me, and it still is a very propelling force for me, even up till today, is the fact that yes, I took a chance on myself, right? So
Mm.
moving from, I was already in a field of script writing, episodic, and all that, and I just used to come to Orange Academy to participate in some poetry session, and all I needed to see was that wall, and I said, this is where I
I
need to
belong.
be,
Hmm.
right? And I was audacious. You need to have guts, right? You need to have guts. So I quit from my job and I went to be a student, right? And I remember that, yes, when I got my first internship job at Center Spread, or Kenny was my creative director then. And I looked at the internship pay and I was like, coming from this money I was receiving before, or that people thought I was mad. But I said, look, if I'm being paid this internship fee just to learn from Kenny, I'll take it. And it was the best move of my career, guys. So if
Right.
there's one thing that's carried me this far is that I never waited to be perfect before I started, right?
Oh, nice,
Before I
nice.
started creating, experimenting, and I've also learned from Kenny, from all my orange colleagues, that creativity is never a destination. It's a posture, it's the shape of your mind. You need to
Mm,
always choose wonder over fear. You need to
mm,
choose iteration over hesitation. You need to choose meaning over noise. So my advice to you, out there watching is, look, you don't have to fit in to be relevant. You simply need to be true. And that's what it takes to be a true orange mind, right?
yeah,
To
that's
be
great.
unapologetic in your expressions. Yeah, so
Love
that
it,
would be it
love
for
it,
me.
love it. And that's it. That's it, ladies and gentlemen, and whoever you are, wherever you are in the world. You've been a great, great audience today. We've been with Mobola, we've been with Oyin Damola, we've been with Chisholm, my new favorite person on earth. Chisholm, so bold, so powerful, so confident. This is the future, and I enjoy hanging out with you today. Why don't we jam to the music of Falashe? Falashe is an orange mind who actually makes music from Berlin. I'm not sure it's Berlin, from Germany, wherever in Germany. Uh, so, and as we jam, now we say good night wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. It's been a great evening. Thank you.
Will you wine your body? Show me how you do it, like your style and your dressing. Show me how you do it. Will you wine your body? Show me how you do it, like your style and your dressing. Show me how you do it, do it. She won't.